Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is losing one of his long-standing cabinet ministers. Seamus O'Regan, the Minister of Labour and Seniors, is resigning effective tomorrow. The Liberal from Newfoundland and Labrador is planning to stay on as MP until the next federal election, but he's decided not to run again. The 53-year-old says he's stepping down for family reasons, and Trudeau is expected to name O'Regan's replacement in the cabinet tomorrow. Outgoing Minister Seamus O'Regan joins me now. Minister, for the last time, thanks for coming as Minister. Thanks for joining us today.
Good to be back, David. Thank you.
I know you spelled out your reasons, family reasons, talking about wanting to be a better husband, a better uncle, a better brother, a better son. Why now, though? Why now and not closer to the election?
Well, this comes after, I would say, a conversation that my husband and I had in January. And, we do our jobs, all of us, and you're just at it every day, putting in 100%, and you're committed, and you don't really take the time to look up and see how long you've been there and how further down the road you're going. And he just kind of did the math on it and said, I was thinking 8 years, that's what we had discussed if you were, re-elected after 4. And now we're staring at 10 and you're asking me for another 4. And that was a kind of a stark reminder of our lives, really. This life requires a lot of travel. We live here in St. John's. Work takes him on the road. He's in Toronto an awful lot. And, I'm back and forth to Ottawa and all the other riggers. So it just, it became time. And we had a lot to do. I mean, we had that discussion in January. We had a lot going on this spring. 2 big pieces of legislation I wanted to see through, namely a ban on replacement workers and a Sustainable Jobs Act that we I was really wanted to make sure we got through. And then there's always something else, and there's something else, and there's something else. There's never a good time. There's never a perfect time. There's just, the time. And so I went to the Prime Minister when he was here, actually, in the province, July 1st. We had that conversation then, and then it was just a matter of finding the right time. Like I said, never a perfect time.
Did he try to talk you out of it? Because, these are rough political times for the Prime Minister, for your party, right now. Did he try to convince you to stay in cabinet? You guys have known each other a long time.
Yeah, I would say, normally in our relationship, we're both very good at compartmentalizing. He's a long-standing friend and a very dear friend. But as Prime Minister and Minister, you're expected to come to the table with nothing less and nothing more than your A game, and there are no favorites. This was one of those conversations where it was both deeply personal and professional, just by nature of our professional relationship, but also because he knows my husband, he knows my mom. My mom just turned 80, and she's doing great. All the more reason why I'd like to be around more. I'm the designated primary caregiver, but I'm not here nearly enough. And that was another big factor for me. He understood those things, he understood that if I came to him with those reasons, that they were deep-seated, they were real, and he was very gracious.
So look, we've known each other a long time. We're both from the same place. I've met your husband. I know your mom. I know the family circumstances. But a lot of people, when they hear a politician say they're leaving for family reasons, they don't buy it, because it becomes a very convenient excuse, especially after Toronto St. Paul's, after a year of bad polls. What do you say that people might doubt this?
Hand on heart, it wouldn't matter. Where we are in the polls wouldn't mean a whit to the amount of time that I spend away from my family. That's it. And you don't. It's just one of those things. You know it when the time comes, and it hit us both. Like I said, we've actually been sitting on this for quite some time. Because I wanted to make sure that we got all the work done, and you're just constantly looking for that perfect moment that never ever quite appears. It's very elusive. But no, this was solely about the family. I get it. I was a reporter for a long time, a student of journalism, a student of politics, and you're quite right. It's perhaps much abused, but it's also not. I've learned now, having been in an elected member of Parliament now for 9 years, and 7 years as a minister, 90% of the time when somebody says it's family, it's probably family.
So
this is I knew what I was getting into, but it is a tough job. It does keep you away from your family.
So you say 9 years, it'd be 10 years if you stay till the next election, which you say you intend to do as a member of Parliament, but then you'd have to commit to, serving for, roughly another 4 years should you win. There's a lot of people in your caucus who were elected in 2015 who are at a similar stage in their political life cycle as you are. I know you're the first sort of cabinet minister to announce you're not going to run again, and that's why you're stepping down. How much more change like this do you think we're going to see in the Liberal caucus, just because of the natural life cycle of careers and the stress and strain that you see on families like you've outlined?
I don't know. I'm keeping my circumstances and my reasons very, very individual because, nobody knows them but me and my husband and my family. And they're very particular to us. But, having said that, no, I know where you're going. I think, other people will make up their own minds, but there's a lot of, the work is good, right? That's one thing that keeps you going in this job, is the work is really good. The good days are amazing. The bad days are tough. But then the good days are amazing, and that's what keeps you going. The work is, I will miss this work as a cabinet minister, and having served and serving, well, as if tomorrow served on a bunch of different committees. I love the work. I will miss that work. That's what keeps people going, and it's what will keep a lot of my colleagues going.
You said your conversation with the Premier when he was there for Canada Day and Memorial Day in Newfoundland and Labrador, and the interment of the unknown soldier at the National War Memorial.
With the Prime Minister.
Sorry, with the Prime Minister. That's what I meant to say. Sorry. Deeply personal, deeply professional. Did he give you any indication of his professional next steps, where he is at as leader of the Liberal Party? Because you're on all the caucus emails that we've heard about where some people have called for him to go or, to reconsider his future. Where do you think he is?
Totally focused on taking the party into the next election. No question in my mind. He made that perfectly clear to me. He had that steely look in his eye that you just don't mess with. He is as committed to the job as he ever has been. And he has seen us through thick and thin. I mean, it has been pretty relentless. You come in and you come in with a platform and you have things that you want to do, and we've done a lot of them. But it's also just the managing the events, dear boy, events. Going from the Trump administration and the pressures that put on our economy and on our politics, right into COVID, and then coming out of COVID with inflation, interest rates. It has been relentless. The man's endurance is breathtaking, and his commitment to the job and to the country are as firm as ever.
Well, he's got one more task to do. He's got to find your replacement. I mean, does this give us the unimagined scenario of Labour Minister Mark Carney, or do you think he promotes someone from inside the caucus into your job?
It will. It'll require someone who, there's not much time for a learning curve, nor is there ever really, and nor was there for me. This is a really important file, increasingly important. I think this is, Labour's moment. Just demographically speaking, we just need more people in the workforce, and particularly skilled labor. So there's pressures, and Labor's smart enough to know that they, supply and demand. They are asking for more. They are getting more, and employers, time and again are meeting them at the table. So I'll repeat now what I've repeated a million times. Best deals are made at the table. We'll need somebody who remains committed to that table. But one thing I know is whoever he chooses will have the full and complete backing of a Prime Minister who understands how important Labour is to the economy and how important I think Labour is politically for the country as a whole.
So you're leaving that table, you're leaving that cabinet table, but you're staying in caucus at least until close to the next election, so there won't be a by-election. What do you do next? I mean, is your future in Newfoundland and Labrador? I know you moved back from Ontario to run 10 years ago because you're working in television up there. What do you do after politics? Do you know yet?
I think that this province, but the country as a whole, is the place to be as we try and figure out, how we square being the fourth biggest producers of oil in the world with lowering emissions and taking on energy. And David, you were here for it as well. The annual general meeting of Energy NL just pumped me up because I have, been giving speeches to many of the same people, and this would be, what was normally basically our Offshore Oil and Gas Association. They've rebranded Energy NL, and that's not just branding. It's because because half of their membership that was at the AGM, their best attended AGM, are in renewables. And I can tell you, working as years before I did, and then as Natural Resources Minister, to see this change happening here in this province is breathtaking. You know, the interest in it, but the money, the jobs, you know, this is a huge challenge. I call it our national mission, how we figure out how we continue the prosperity of this country while meeting the mark on lowering emissions and embracing those new opportunities. And this place is doing it. You know, Come By Chance Oil Refinery is now taking used cooking oil and making it into sustainable aviation fuel. I mean, there it is. Right. This is tremendously exciting, and I've been since the time I was writing Hibernia First Oil speeches for then Premier Brian Tobin, working on Voisey's Bay. I still have a core sample from the original Voisey's Bay find on my desk back from when I was working for Edward Roberts, who was the minister responsible for Labrador. This is home. I'm deep-seated here. But the challenges and the opportunities for this country right now in natural resources, in climate, right. Where that meets with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis, their mobilization and ability. Oh man, this is. I'm still chuffed by the work. It will be a different table I will be sitting at. It will be a different chair. But these issues are not going away, and they are exciting, and the work is good. It stays good.
Seamus O'Regan, Minister of Labour and Seniors, for one more day. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, David.
The Prime Minister posted his thanks to O'Regan, writing, "My friend Seamus has been a pragmatic voice and a relentless advocate around the cabinet table. But to do that work well, you have to sacrifice a lot and ask so much of your family. I respect his decision wholeheartedly." So, who will replace O'Regan, and could there be more shuffling to come? We're going to talk about that with the Power Panel. Jonathan Kalis is a former Quebec advisor to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Ginny Roth is a former Conservative campaign strategist. And Andrew Thompson is a former Saskatchewan NDP cabinet minister. Hello to you all. It's good to see you.
Hello.
So Jono, this is obviously the opening Mark Carney's been waiting for, right? It was Labour or bust. That's what this is all about. What do you make of Seamus O'Regan saying he's done?
I think it's sort of normal in a sense. You never know. I think you heard him say it during his interview. There is no perfect time to do it, and I guess as we approach a bit of a summer break, and probably when he was going to take a break, although there are strikes looming, CN amongst other things, that there's no perfect time. But after 9 or soon to be 10 years in office, for a lot of people, they decide it's time to move on. And, you know, sometimes it is exactly what it seems to be. There's nothing really nefarious going on. He decided to move on, and I think that's what this is. So he's been moved, from a bunch of different roles, from veterans to natural resources, Indigenous affairs, and labor now. You haven't heard his name very often in terms of there being problems. So
right.
That sort of means it's a minister who's doing his job fairly well and being moved to roles where they think he can do a good job. He seems to have sorted out a bunch of issues and problems on the labor front in the last year, where there were strikes either happening or possibly happening, and he's worked with the parties to get them past it. Those aren't easy negotiations to be part of, and I think he's found a good balance in general. So I think it'll be a loss, but after 8-9 years, I think you're going to see renewal. I don't think this is the only person who will leave. I don't have insight into one or two, particular other ones, but it's not a surprise where people, after this amount of time, move on.
But Ginny, Jono's right when he says a lot of people look at this and say, oh, the family excuse. I mean, my sense, I've known him a long time. I think he's being pretty candid about the situation he finds himself in. But what's your view on his reasoning and his resignation?
I think it's never one reason, right? I don't doubt for a second that he wants to spend more time with his family, especially his mom. And my heart goes out to him. You make sacrifices in these jobs, as the Prime Minister said. I think it's true. But it's easier to make those sacrifices when you're winning. And when you, not just winning for the sake of winning, but winning so that you have a mandate, so you can get things done, so you can execute against a plan and a promise to voters. And the Liberals, let's be honest, haven't been doing that for years now. And it makes it a lot less fun. And so then you start to think, well, what am I giving up for this? This is not fun for me anymore, And so I think there's a lot going on, and I don't think it's at all strange to suggest that one of the factors is it's not an easy thing to be a Liberal cabinet minister these days. And I think as a result, we'll see a lot more of them stepping away in the coming months, which is tough for the centre. for the Prime Minister and his team, because they've got to sort this out and figure out how to plug holes and figure out who's left. And often the strong people leave. I mean, Seamus was a strong communicator, and that's a loss for the government because it's someone who can't deliver on a tough message. But I don't think he was relishing defending the carbon tax in Atlantic Canada, which no one wants to do right now for really obvious reasons, and defending the government's record.
Andrew, what are your thoughts, and who do you think they might look to replace him at the cabinet table? Because it's going to be a one-for-one, it sounds like, tomorrow, just one person coming in.
Yeah, it does sound like that. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for reaching that kind of 10-year period where especially when you've been in government, it's different if you've been in opposition, you've never had a chance to actually run anything. You may want to be there a little longer, but 10 years in government is a long time, especially in the type of portfolios that he's had, which are kind of thankless ones, to be honest. A lot of tough issues, a lot of difficult stakeholders, a lot of, really meaty things that need to be dealt with that don't always have easy solutions. I think he was a pretty competent minister. He seemed to understand his files and be able to deliver, and that's certainly, a good thing for a politician. Thinking of you, Prime Minister, to be looking at when you're looking at a time to leave. And those are the things that really I think all MPs do take into account as they're kind of making these assessments. In terms of who steps in, I mean, obviously it's an Atlantic Canadian ministerial posting. They'll be wanting to look at that. I think there's other dynamics, certainly the loss of St. Paul's and the troubles that the Liberals have in Toronto. Maybe point to somebody like Marco Medicino coming back.
Actually, Andrew, just to interrupt you, sorry. When you coughed, I was worried you're having a Joe Biden moment. But CBC and Radio Canada, I'm just being told, are reporting, Liberal sources confirm that it will be Steve MacKinnon who takes on the post of Labour Minister. So I take your point on the Atlantic Canadian seat, but there is already a Newfoundland and Labrador Cabinet Minister, and Goody Hutchings, the Minister of Rural Economic Development. So it's Steve MacKinnon, Andrew. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, he'll be a good regional minister. What more can you say about that? I mean, at this point, you're at the tail end of a government. It's hard to make your mark. It's not a great spot to be asked to step into, but, this is a chance for some folks who haven't been there to demonstrate what they can do. So,
Jono, MacKinnon has been in cabinet as the House leader since Karina Gould went on maternity leave. So she comes back. Seamus O'Regan leaves, MacKinnon slides over a spot, and you sort of keep your gender balance, so you keep experience in there. But here's a question I have. Seamus O'Regan is very close to the Prime Minister. He told him during the Canada Day, Memorial Day trip to Newfoundland that this was happening. If they were making a larger seismic cabinet shuffle, the types a lot of people say they need to do, he probably would have held on for a couple of weeks for that to happen. Don't you think? Does this tell us that maybe the big summer shakeup a lot of Liberals have said they need to do may not happen this summer? What are your thoughts?
So you're saying that this is not Scott Bryson 2019 2.0?
Well, same region, different fallout, right?
Same region, but and similar reasons, family reasons, wanting to do something else. But no, I don't think you're necessarily going to see the dominoes fall. I think we knew even yesterday when we saw Minister Joly was traveling to China that this whole rumored domino wasn't going to happen if she's going to be halfway around the world. Doesn't mean there cannot be a shuffle down the road. No, I don't think that precludes it. But I think for the time being, I understand your question in terms of timing. Why couldn't they have waited a few more weeks?
Well, it doesn't feel imminent based on this, I think. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. That's the thing. You have a cabinet retreat at the end of the last week of August. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think you're going to have a shuffle a week or two after that. So, and the Prime Minister is going on vacation for 2 weeks. So the window closes. Attention may be focused to LaSalle, Lemard, Verdun by-election that's going to come up in the next 6 weeks. So, there are other things coming up. Again, I don't think it precludes it, but I think it kind of quiets it down for the time being. And I think the focus will be on other things. And then again, it's summer. And the Prime Minister is going away. I think things will be quiet and people will be talking, if they're talking politics, about what's going on south of the border more than here.
Yeah, Ginny, this town, it obsesses over cabinet shuffles, snap elections, and leadership rumors. And I don't think we're going to get a snap election. The leadership rumors may persist, but what are your thoughts? I mean, this suggests to me, and I have no direct knowledge of this, that a big summer shakeup in the middle of August at the cabinet, I just don't think we're going to see it. I think they're going to go to the retreat, go to caucus, and go into the fall with kind of where they will be after Steve MacKinnon is sworn in tomorrow.
Yeah, there are a couple things. One, it's hard to get MPs and cabinet ministers to say they're not going to run again, because in some cases they need a pension, in some cases they want this job until the election's over. And so getting them to all say together so that you can sort out the details of a big shuffle is actually difficult, especially if you're trying to sort of clear out people who don't plan to run again.
Wasn't that last summer?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Well, they also don't want to cause some by-elections.
Well,
I think that's fair to say.
A much bigger problem, though, to everyone's point, is it's not going to make much difference. They're throwing darts at poor Minister Freeland. That Canada's first feminist prime minister is taking down another woman in his cabinet by as you can see reported in the media. And none of it is making a difference because I think Canadians blame the prime minister. I think they blame Justin Trudeau, and I don't know how. To use an overwrought metaphor, but it's just too apt. Moving the chairs on the deck of the Titanic makes no difference, right? And so I think when they're struggling to figure out how to get out of this polling rut, they understand that a big shuffle probably won't make much difference, and it might actually cause more headaches than it solves. And I think they actually don't know what to do. I don't think they know what to do with Freeland. I don't think that they know what to do with some of the other big portfolios. And staring them in the face is that their biggest problem of all is the Prime Minister himself.
And Andrew, what are your thoughts on this? I know there has been a conversation, certainly the rhetoric on the comparisons between Poilievre and Trump have died down quite a bit in the public-facing things the Liberals are doing, but we can all see the big inflection point potentially happening in the United States. It's not even slow motion, it's moving super fast. I mean, what are your thoughts on what they might do over the summer, and maybe is the U.S. election the inflection point to change cabinet, to reorient things a bit?
I don't think the pending U.S. election, especially if it looks like it's a Trump victory, I don't think actually speaks to a strength for Prime Minister Trudeau and the Liberals. It'll be interesting to see what the polling says, but last I saw, a lot of people thought the country would be better off having somebody like Poilievre facing off against Trump to protect Canadian interests rather than Trudeau. The problem is, as Jenny says, it doesn't matter how much you move around the cabinet and shuffle the portfolios. The most you'll cause is probably more internal division on that. The Prime Minister is where the focus is at. It's very much like the conversation going on with the Democrats and Biden in the U.S. It's focused on that. Unless that changes, I don't think that the Liberals have much opportunity. The second thing that has to come with that, though, realistically, if they want somebody other than a Conservative Prime Minister coming up, the NDP has to break the supply and confidence agreement and start acting like an opposition party to be able to draw away some of that protest vote that otherwise right now is sitting with Poilievre.
So, Jono, I don't know what's going to happen with Joe Biden, but there's certainly no obvious signs that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is changing his mind. And Seamus O'Regan said they talked about it on that Canada Day trip. And Justin Trudeau, I mean, he's not going to come on the show and say, oh, yeah, David, he told me he's leaving. But the Mark Carney stories keep churning out prominently in the Globe and Mail. I mean, what do you make of this dynamic that keeps coming up? Because the PMO people I talk to keep pushing back against a lot of this. They say they support Freeland. Where do you think it goes?
I think what we're likely to see, and I don't know how far it goes, and I'm not sure anybody knows how far it goes, but I think what you're likely to see is that Mark Carney is eventually going to step up. What does that mean? I think at the very least, he's going to, put his hat in the ring, say, I'm going to run the next election. I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see other names start to put their names in the ring, put their hats in the ring, and you'll start to see some new faces, some new names. They'll be trying to get some candidates who, get some attention. You saw it, I think I'll go back to 2004, Paul Martin running, wanting to renew some of the front benches, some of the names. And you saw some pretty big names from Emerson DeSange to Ken Dryden and Pablo Rodriguez and Mark Holland. So you had some renewal back then, and it helped at a time when they were struggling, some crises that were going on, sponsorship, other things, and it did give them a boost. So I wonder if that's what we're also going to see over the next months, many months, new names, new faces, and that's part of what happens, again, to Seamus leaving, but also to new people coming in. That's just a natural evolution, and if you want to hang on, you want to stay in power, you're going to have to refresh. You can't just keep going back out there with the same exact message, face, everything.
So, Ginny, that sounds like Jonathan Kalis for LaSalle or Verdun to me. I don't know how you interpreted that answer, but he thinks Mark Carney will eventually. No, I know, I'm teasing. He thinks Mark Carney will eventually step up. What do you think of this idea? Do you think Mr. Carney will eventually run, or other big names could come forward to run?
I don't know Mr. Carney personally. I don't know why in the world he would do that. I mean, if you can't win St. Paul's, if you can't win this Montreal suburban seat you're referring to, which it sounds like the NDP may win, another safe Liberal seat that's no longer safe, by the sounds of it, or at least that's threatened. I mean, I think Mark Carney is going to want a seat he can win, and I don't know what that seat is, right? When you lose St. Paul's, you're looking at 10, 15, maybe 20 seats across the country that you can win as Liberals, and so, you know, that would be nice for the Liberals if people like that came forward, but I just don't think it's in order. I think actually what the Prime Minister is trying to do is undermine Carney by making it appear as though Carney's not a team player, not a real Liberal. If he won't step up and be part of the team, you know, maybe he's not a great contender for the leadership. And so I think I understand why the Prime Minister is maybe wanting these stories out there, but I don't understand why it's in Carney's interest. And if he does it, then I seriously question his political judgment.
Well, I don't know if these leaks are coming from the PMO. They tell me they're not putting it out there. They say they don't know who's putting it out there. I'll just say that. I have no evidence of who is behind this. They're not my sources. Andrew, we're tight on time to give you the last word to wrap this conversation up.
Yeah, so again, you know, I think the question of whether Carney comes back or not, the difference with what John was saying is that renewal happened under a new Liberal leader. I mean, that was under the start of Martin's term,
Right.
Not at the tail end of Chrétien's. And, you know, to try and renew while you're already, 10 years into the job as a leader is a lot tougher. I don't think there's a lot of upside to Carney coming in. I'm not even sure he wants the big job if it became available. So, it's all it makes perfect sense for the Prime Minister right now in his office to be saying, look, we've got the door open for Carney. If he wants to come in, great. But, failure for him to walk through that door also takes away one of the phantoms that is, haunting the Prime Minister as a potential leadership challenger.
Well, I can tell you, we have the door open here for Mark Carney. Anytime he wants to come into the studio and tell us what's going on and what he plans to do, we'll happily make our time available. I want to thank you all. Thank you to the Power Panel, Jonathan Kalis, Ginny Roth, and Andrew Thompson. Thanks so much, gang.
Thanks, David.